How do we get from, the days when you were coming out and rocking with, you could hear you could hear PE, you could hear Daylight, you could hear a lot of different subject matter on the radio, LL Cool J, to now it just seems like you turn on the radio, you turn on TV, and it's just
violence. Everything is violence.
How do we get there?
I think I don't want to blame it all on the powers that be, but violence sells, and the power knows that. And when the brothers was, going up into the record labels, looking for deals, record deals, if you're not killing somebody, if you're not selling a kid coke, if you ain't got one of the prettiest cars in the hood and the biggest chains and some of the flyest chicks, they don't want to hear it. So the little kids was going back home and then like, oh, okay, coming back up there and it's the same little kid that came in a week ago talking about, something that may have been okay to listen to. A week later, he a killer. So it's like, the powers that be coerce a lot of it, but now we starting to feed into it to the point where, it's almost, the point of no return, man. The conscious level in the hood is kind of low right now because of that. The majority rules. If the majority is talking blue and somebody else, come out talking gray, it's hard for that person to get, people to see that color because there's so much blue out there, you know what I mean? So, if we can put a balance back in it, man, the consumers got to understand that, it's their choice first. And they the ones that, make or break what we do. So, support what you believe in. And hopefully, like I said, the majority rules. If, when Rakim come back through and, a few other rappers, that got a little positive vibe, or not even a positive vibe, just a real hip-hop vibe that ain't talking no, killer, I'll sell you a kid coke. But, you know what I mean? Hopefully, man, time just, coming full circle again. It can't be so much of that, man, you know what I mean? And the little kids, even the kids, kind of tired of the, the BS, man. So hopefully, the next couple years, we can get back into what we call hip hop.
Cats in rap right now are doing things for shock value. Not necessarily the music. It's more of the marketing of who the person is, who the artist is, and then the music.
I don't know what they're doing.
You're cut from a cloth where it is the music.
Yeah, that's what it's gonna be. It's gonna be the music and lyrics.
The people fuck with you because you're real and the music's real.
That's what I ain't read.
No more of that.
That's what I ain't read.
I mean, there's rappers right now that are going as far as to name their album "I'm Gay" to break down the barrier of that
serious?
Word. That's serious. I'm dead serious. Yeah. Lil B.
Who?
Lil B.
Lil Beat?
Lil B. That's his name.
Lil B. Lil bitch?
He's using that word. He says he's not gay, but he's naming his album that to break down that word and the stigma that comes with it. He's showing people that there's power put in words.
There is power in words.
You agree with that?
There is power in words. You give us power in a word. I think before I speak. That way when I speak, they don't have me to teach. There is power in words. But don't go over there. Don't go that way. Oh my Lord. Oh. And you know what? I'm at a point where I don't care what anyone else is doing.
Yeah.
I don't even give a fuck what anyone else is doing. I know what I'm doing.
If I try to talk to the soldiers, the ones on the street that's trying to come up, who tired of the nonsense, then I think I'm a positive role model. I'll let it die, let it
up off my waist and start to clap for this. Hot lead to your head, push it back for this. Got folks hating our brunettes, wanna strap for this. The same folks said they honeys bent back for this. Same track, different back on some holiday shit. Menages from the front to the back of the whip. And you wonder why she trip when you run in your lips.
The bottom line is that they got caught up in all the hype. And if Tupac came back from the dead now to hear this interview, he would agree. They got caught up in the hype. And Public Enemy prophesies, don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype. you know, and they got caught up. Biggie, they all got caught up, and it's a shame because we ain't supposed to go out like that.
If you have a name that no one else has, you have to repeat it twice. You got to say it with extra feeling the second time. It builds character. So, you know, that's why my mother gave it to me. I need to stay true to the streets. Rap could do whatever it got to do to make money, just stay alive. Right. But hip-hop got to stay true to the streets. Okay. If you're talking about you hardcore, I better see some sidewalks and beer bottles in your arms. Man, unfortunately, I don't have any positive messages for all you, except keep your head up, you know, don't give up.
Why'd I make a video about positive?
See, that's why you don't have to see video. Oh, keep your head up. Just for that. The first line. So say the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. I say the darker the flesh, then the deeper the roots. I give a holler to my sister's own welfare. Tupac kids, and don't nobody else care. Check. I know they like to beat you down a lot, and when you come around the block, brothers clown a lot. Please, don't cry, dry your eyes, never let up. Forgive, but don't forget, girl, keep your head up. And when he tells you you ain't nothing, don't believe him. And if he can't learn to love you, you should leave him. Cause sister, you don't need him. And I ain't trying to gash up, I just call it how I see it. You know what makes me unhappy? When brothers make babies and leave a young mother to be a pet. Now since we all came from a woman, got our name from a woman, and our game from a woman, I wonder why we take from our women, why we rape our women, do we hate our women? I think it's time we kill for our women, time to heal our women, be real to our women. Cause if we don't have a race of babies that will hate the ladies that make the babies, and since a man can't make one, he has no right to tell a woman when and where to create one. So we're the real G's, get up. I know you fed up, ladies. Keep your head up.
All right,
The person I'm going to talk about next is a person who's very dear to me. A person who's a second-generation revolutionary. So please help me in welcoming Brother Tupac Shakur.
First, I want to say peace to my mother. She's not here, but I got to give a peace out to her, because I wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for my mother. And I looked on the front of this thing, and it says, start from within to rebuild our original greatness, right? Okay, well, that's what my mother did. You know what I'm saying? And I'm listening about freedom fighters and strugglers. Well, you got to understand that when it was in to have a gun and to be in the street, my mother gave that up to be in the house and wash the dishes, you know what I'm saying, and feed us and put the thoughts in our brains, you know what I'm saying? Because we didn't get any of that history from all of those soldiers that we lost. We got none of that. They all went to jail, if you can remember. They all went to penitentiaries. We didn't see none of that knowledge. If it was not for my mother who stayed home and didn't go out and do all that, then I wouldn't have had shit, excuse my language, but I wouldn't have been nowhere. So what I want to do, hopefully, is I want to be, I am Tupac Shakur. I have to be a reminder that we can't chill out. No, it ain't time to cool out and banquets and all that. It's still on. It's on just like it was on when you was young, and you want to say fuck that just like you said fuck that back then. So how come now that I'm 20 years old and ready to start some shit up, everybody telling me to calm down? You know, don't curse, go to school, go to college. Well, fuck that. You know, we had colleges for a while now. You know what I'm saying? And it's still Brenda's out there, and niggas is still trapped. You know what I'm saying? And it gets me irked. because I understand that it's not going to stop. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to stop until we stop it. That's right. And it's not just white men that's doing this to Brenda, and it's not just white men that's keeping us trapped. Right. It's black. Right. You know what I'm saying? We have to find the new African in everybody, in all of us. Because if we keep running around looking for black and who got the most colors on and who got the baddest dashiki on, we still gonna get, excuse my language, fucked. Right. Because it irks me that my mother right now is going through, you know, she has to get clean. This is somebody who I watched travel the whole country, you know what I'm saying, during a time when women were scared to speak up for the Black Panthers. She spoke at Harvard, Yale, everywhere, and now I see my mother as what's really going on. You know what I'm saying? And I don't see no big parades around my mother now. And she done got a dozen fucking awards, and I don't see nobody there. You understand what I'm saying? So about all this, I take that lightly. I take all this lightly. What I want you to take seriously is what we have to do for the youth. Right. Because we're coming up in a totally different world. Right. This is not the same world that you had. This is not the 60s. This is not that. We grew up BC, before crack. That should say it all. You understand what I'm saying? We did not grow up without parents. You had parents that told you this and that, and this is what went on back in the day. Now you don't have that. You have young kids, 14, coming home, their mama is smoking out or doing it to their best friend to get the product. You understand what I'm saying? So that means that it's not just about you taking care of your child, it's about you taking care of these children. Because that's what's out here. It's a gang of children. You understand what I'm saying? And it hurts. It hurts that it bothers me, not hurts, it bothers me that I have to sidestep my youth to stand up and do some shit that somebody else supposed to be doing. You understand what I'm saying? There's too many men out here for me to be doing this, because it ain't my turn yet. I'm supposed to be following behind him getting the knowledge. I don't even got a chance to get the fucking knowledge. I can't go to college. There's too much problems out here. I don't got the money. Nobody do. You understand what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is it's not as easy as we mapping it out to be. And we gotta stay real. We gotta stay real. Before we could be New African, we gotta be black first. You understand? We gotta get our brothers from the street like Harriet Tubman did. Why can't we look at that and see exactly what she was doing? Like Malcolm did. The real Malcolm. Before the Nation of Islam. You gotta remember this was a pimp. You know what I'm saying? The push and all that. We forgot about all that. And our strive to be enlightened, we forgot about all our brothers in the street. About all our dope dealers, our pushers and our pimps. And that's who's teaching the new generation. Because y'all not doing it. I'm sorry. But it's the pimps and the pushers who's teaching us. So if you got a problem with how we was raised, it's because they was the only ones who could do it. They the only ones who did it. While everybody else wanted to go to college and, you know, yeah, everything has changed. They was the ones that was telling you the white man ain't shit. Here you go. Check this out, young blood. You take this product, you switch it, you make money, and that's how you beat the white man. You get money and you get the hell up out of here. Nobody else did that. So I don't want to hear shit about nobody telling me who I can't love and respect until you start doing what they did. You understand what I'm saying? To me, this is Mecca. You know what I'm saying? This is the black family. I see it here. But what makes it even that much more sadder, what makes me want to cry, is because as soon as I leave here, so does Mecca. You understand what I'm saying? We're going back to the real deal. Right out there, you're going to see them same sisters and Brenda. They right out there. And y'all going to get in y'all cars and drive the fuck home. You know what I'm saying? And I apologize. I apologize. But check this out. You can't be no more offended by my curses than what's really going on. That's real. That's real, y'all. That's real. Y'all gotta really be true to that. You gotta be true to that. Because we letting the media and the white man cut us off. You letting them tell you that the rappers ain't real and you know, you gotta either be, you know, the intelligent person or you're a gutter person. We all the same. We all feel it like y'all feel it. I just can't hold a straight face when I see it. This is proof that we can be together. The young black male is the future of us. And the young black sister is the future of us. It's gonna be what you put into it. So if you don't put shit into it, don't get mad when you blow up. Thug life, I mean that shit. Cause these white folks see us as thugs. I don't care what y'all think. I don't care if you think you a lawyer, if you a man, if you an African American, if you whatever the fuck you think you are. We thugs and niggas to these motherfuckers. You know? And until we own some shit, I'ma call it like it is. How you gonna be a man and we starving? You know? And we look at walk by 5 different houses, ain't a man in either one of them motherfuckers. Why we gonna be a man? How we gonna be African Americans? We out here dying. We thugs and we niggas until we set this shit right. Trust me when I tell you that shit.
You know, a lot of what he's saying is actual fact. You know, it's actual fact. Yet it also speaks to the environment in which we are embedded as young black males and females in this particular society. You know, hip-hop changing from positive to negative was not a consequence of history. It was not a circumstance of history. It was nothing that just happened on its own. It had nothing to do with the changing of the times. It had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with the fact that there are people in this particular society who wants to see us exactly where we are. And we cannot let that point elude us. These are the facts. How do we know? 1967, Kerner Commission report on urban disorder. When black people said, yo, we're tired of this system. You know what I mean? This system is oppressing us. So we rebelled against the system. We burned things. We said, yo, we had enough. He did his little report on what caused these riots. He said, what caused these riots? He said it was young children who started these riots, and what was motivating them was a high self-esteem and an enhanced racial pride. He said the majority of the rioters were high school dropouts, but they had a higher political orientation than their peers who did not drop out. And they saw the system as their enemy, so they attacked it in the right circumstance. So, fast forward to 1992. Same thing. #1 record on the radio, we had Fight the Power. Fight the Power is on the radio. Rodney King gets beaten before the world. The black youth rebelled against the system. Again, they did it again. And why? What primed them? Positive hip hop. Primed them. Fight the Power, X-Clan, Brand Nubian. You had these groups out here who were pushing, who were politically orienting black kids in the right direction, giving them the proper prompters that they needed so that they can respond properly to oppression. All right? In 1967, when the riots happened, he saw that the self-esteem and the racial pride was fueling this. So he said, how do I bring that down so that they will not riot? And what he did, he flooded the airways with black exploitation movies. Nigga Charlie and the Return of Nigga Charlie. These were movies. Hip-hop didn't start calling people niggas. We had Shaft. We had Coffee. Black girl turned prostitute to do whatever, you know what I mean? But these black exploitation movies brought down the self-esteem and the racial pride so that the kids will not rebel against this system of oppression. 92, the racial pride was back in effect. We had black kids going to Dr. Ben Yuckinen lectures. We were spending our money to go see Farrakhan speak as opposed to going to a strip club. This is where we were. The most coveted article of clothing was a historically black college or university sweater. We were motivating children towards positive attitudes and lifestyles. And when Rodney King got the beating, heads responded properly. Fast forward to our day. Sean Bell is shot 50 times in the street in New York by police officers. #1 song on the radio, Like a Lollipop. Nobody do nothing. Nobody respond to nothing. Trust me. Just like the brother, I believe it was JT, the bigger figure, who said that the label executives came to him and said, yo, brother, we need you talking about guns and whores. You know what I mean?
That's right.
That happens. I've been in those meetings with management and had to ask me, is what you're saying really what you believe so that we'll know how to market you properly? You know what I mean? This happens. Young Buck, on his album, he has a song on his album that talks about police terrorism. The label said absolutely not. Jimmy Iovine said absolutely not. You cannot put that record on the album because it might create an atmosphere that might put police officers' lives in danger.
Right.
So they took the record off, but they let him keep the other 14 songs on the album that talked about killing black youth. So this is what we're dealing with. We're not dealing with a circumstance or consequence of history. You know what I mean? The environment that we're embedded in puts us in a situation where we feel we have to maneuver and play the game and water our message down. You know what I mean? But no, what happened was they intentionally shifted the paradigm to get us exactly where we are right now. Right now, we're feeding the prison industrial complex right now. Our kids are going to prison because they're promoting these records. They're promoting these records daily that send us to jail. You know what I mean? It's cool to go to jail. You know what I mean? They glorify these things. And it's not the black youth. We're in a position where we get, like the brother said, the choice. You know, he said, yo, I chose the positive. So I didn't do it. But every youth is not going to take that route. I know I come from the projects. Grew up in the projects all my life. You know what I mean? And we're not turning down $500,000 to say nigga. We're not going to do it because we won't turn down $200 to take a package of crack from one corner to the next. You know what I mean? We live in a state of poverty and want of all things. So it's hard for us to make that. Our judgment is clouded. And they knew that the judgment would be even more clouded if they took groups like X-Clan off the radio. This is just what it is. And until we start to deal with the environment that's shaping the behavior, we'll never get to the next level. We have to confront that.
So now you're talking from the inside, not someone, from the outside. How did we go from the type of hip-hop that throw your hands up in the air, wave them like you just don't care, everybody have a good time, to brothers shooting each other on the street and smacking around the sisters?
And I think we can go back and we can look at, let me see, how far do I need to go back in order to adequately answer that question? I think we can go back recently and pick up a book entitled The First Millennium Edition of the American Directory of Certified Uncle Toms. I'm going to say it again. It's the First Millennium Edition of the American Directory of Certified Uncle Toms. On page 236, it talks about the nefarious niggerization of rap music. Let me pull it up. It says, the Uncle Toms that haunt the middle echelons of the music business had the first opportunity to nurture and develop the new original sound emerging from their own youth. Talking about black people now. Alright? These Uncle Toms were there, and they heard hip-hop. And they could have nurtured it and morphed it into something. But instead, they rejected it. The whole movement, they rejected it. As strongly as the youth embraced it, they rejected it. They ignored urban appeal and true to their own middle class acculturation, sought their talent from artists whose styles were of the Lionel Richie, Michael Jackson crossover type. White people rejected? No. Young whites latched on to it. You understand what I'm saying? And then young whites seen Public Enemy coming. That gave birth to Brand Nubian, Poor Righteous Teachers, you know, LONS, Busta Rhymes and other people, Queen Latifah and other groups. You understand what I'm saying? And then they decided through Quincy Jones's Vibe magazine and other people that they had propped up to niggerize hip-hop and rap music. You understand what I'm saying? They made it very profitable to call yourself a nigger. So when they started paying people like NWA, because NWA is victims of this also, but they started paying people like NWA to propagate and to promote the nefarious niggerization. You understand what I'm saying? It made it cool for every group to come after NWA to model and pattern themselves after NWA. So it's fashionable and cool to call yourself a nigger now. You understand what I'm saying? Now, this is not Griff. This is on page 236 of the First Millennium Edition of the American Directory of Certified Uncle Toms. And it also says here, the Negro child will be presented with a humiliating picture of the Negro as dirty, shiftless, lazy, happy-go-lucky, smelly, ignorant, treacherous, superstitious, and cowardly. And he may find himself expected to live up to this.
Sounds like the Willie Lynch papers.
Exactly, all over again. And we revisited that with hip-hop. So they used Quincy Jones magazine, the Vibe magazine, and they still do. They used NWA. So while Liar Cohen and Jimmy Iovine was getting rich, creating this East Coast, West Coast beef, Biggie and Tupac were getting shot down like dogs and animals in the street. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so we have to address that. Are you following me?
Yes, sir.
And that's real. So John Patash put together the book, The FBI's War on Tupac Shakur and Black Leaders. And he connected the dots. Now, this is a white dude putting this out. He connected the dots to show you that there's an attack on black leaders, and young black rap artists were the new young black leaders. Because like Fela Kuti said, music is a weapon, and they know that. Are you following me?
Yes, sir.
So inside of the book, Behold a Pale Horse by William Cooper, whom, by the way, they murdered.
Straight up. On parking tickets.
Thank you. So in his book, from the book Behold a Pale Horse, written by William Cooper, a former naval intelligence officer, in regards to a document concerning the American public, it states, diversion is the primary strategy. The simplest method for securing silent weapons and gaining control of the public is to keep the public undisciplined and ignorant of basic system principles while keeping them confused. And this is what these reality shows are doing. Confused about gender, confused about political issues, confused about your role. You understand what I'm saying? Confused about religion, confused about politics. It says, keep them confused, disorganized, and distracted with matters of no real importance. Whereas the media, MEDIA, which stands for Multi-Ethnic Destruction in America, or Maniac European Devils in Action, keeps the adult population's attention diverted from real social issues and captivated by matters of no real importance. It goes on to say, the schools keep the young public ignorant of real mathematics, real economics, real law, and real history. Entertainment is kept below the 6th grade level. When you start hearing songs like Laffy Taffy and these kind of songs would hit your lower chakras and vibrate that negative energy, activating your pituitary gland, releasing those hormones. Now you got grown-ass men making songs for 12 and 13-year-olds.
Jeez, bro.
I.e. Jay-Z. You understand what I'm saying? So the public is kept busy working, and the result is no time to think. And that's exactly what they produced. And they wrote about it inside of a book called the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations, Shaping the Moral, Spiritual, Cultural, Political, and Economic Decline of the United States by John Coleman. Now, John Coleman is the gentleman that wrote the Committee 300. And the Committee 300 is that organization that get together that decide what the trends are going to be in the black community. So when you start seeing people wearing mohawks and tight pants and wearing 2 earrings and acting like women, that was manufactured and put among us.
Jeez, bro.
You understand what I'm saying? So we have to understand that. How they did it, they said they devised a system. And the aim of the 12 tonal system that they devised jointly by British intelligence operatives from Tavistock University or Tavistock Institute in England. They put these 12 tones among us, alright, and created this thing, punk rock and this other uncontrollable music. Look up Operation Paperclip and it'll tell you all about it. But Adorno was a system of music that could program the mass music culture capable of eroding the morals of its listeners until they declined to a point where they will totally be degraded by it. And that's what's going on today. The music is bringing us down to an animalistic level, to the point where we don't even care about the art form. We just want a paycheck.
Yes, sir.
So now it's cool for a Jim Jones to come out talking about nah, 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 nah. And grown folks go for it. You understand what I'm saying? It's cool for these cats to come out with songs talking about I'm stupid, you stupid, we stupid. Why does that appeal to grown men and grown women? And it shouldn't.
I mean,
so we have to understand that, man.
Without further ado, everybody, bring it to this stage, to this microphone. This brother is very active in the community. Even more so, he is very active in the African culture. An active member of the FTP movement and the host of the Nappy Tongue Grassroots Poetry held here every Monday. You know, without further ado, put your hands together. Put your hands together. Keep it going, build it up. Without further ado, bring to this stage, to this microphone. We know him as Siddiqui Bakari, everybody.
What's up, Paul's Jazz House? Y'all give it up for yourselves. Yeah. We're gonna talk about hip-hop tonight. How y'all feel about hip-hop? Yeah? Yeah, we're gonna get down and dirty with it though. Hip-hop did not start in the Bronx. You hear me? Hip-hop did not start in the Bronx. Hip-hop is something that's very ancient. The term might be new. Come on. The term might have began in the Bronx, but we know that hip-hop go way back. We can't talk about hip-hop and not talk about the Black Arts Movement, right? Black nationalism, Black Power movement. How do you have hip-hop if you don't have the Watts Prophets, the Last Poets, Amiri Baraka, right? Right? Sonia Sanchez, right? How do you have hip-hop if you don't have the Harlem Renaissance, right? Black Arts Movement recognized that they had the Harlem Renaissance to stand on their shoulders. Right? So when we talk about hip-hop, Let's recognize that this is something that's old. This is something that's been a way of life for us as Africans. We take this thing all the way back to the Nile Valley. See, when we talk about hip-hop, we got to talk about the first person to even utter a thought. The first people to utter words. The first people to put anything together that was critical and analytical. In order to do that, we got to go back. We got to go back to ancient times. If you want to talk about, we call this graffiti today, right? Where they spray paint on walls or whatnot, but it can be erased. I'm talking about metal netter. Hieroglyphics, as the Europeans call them, right? We can go back there where you see it carved in stone, 2, 3, 4 feet deep in stone, and it still exists thousands and thousands and thousands of years later. That is hip-hop. That's hip-hop on a spiritual level, on a metaphysical level. When we talk about hip-hop, we got to talk about the drum. What's the drum? The drum is a manifestation of your heartbeat. That drum is in rhythm and in sequence with your heartbeat. So now we're talking about chakras. We're talking about kundalini energy. We're talking about third eye. We're talking about what's beyond the physical. But what happens? What happens is when a foreign entity comes and enslaves your spirit, enslaves your heartbeat, enslaves your soul, your chakra, your kundalini energy, when that possessing of spirit comes in, what you have is something that's on a physical level. So now what do we have? We have BET, right? We got global white supremacy. You can't deal with hip-hop and not deal with global white supremacy. What's teaching our babies today? BET. Yeah. Hip-hop, right? Yeah. That's what's teaching our babies. It's not teaching them anything spiritual. It's not teaching them anything on a whole nother level outside of the physical. So this is what I'm talking about when we talk about hip-hop, global white supremacy, economics. Who's dealing with it? Who owns hip-hop? Huh? Who owns it? Euro. It's not us, right? Right. Entertainment is self-explanatory. Hip-hop is part of entertainment. I don't need to deal with that, right? Let's deal with education. As I mentioned, what is it doing? It's educating our babies to be something that we're not. It's a social rearing. It's a rearing when our sisters look at themselves in a dehumanizing way, and that's what our babies learn at 2 years old. They dropping it. At 2, can't say a sentence. This is what's going on in our community. We can deal with labor. Who's the labor force in hip-hop? Rappers, right? Yeah. DJs, the dancers, and every other aspect of hip-hop. Basically, those who are the employees is the labor force. The employers are the ones that run the economic aspect of it. And it's not us. Law. We can deal with law. Who writing all the contracts? The majority of the contracts are written by people that look like us. It's written by who? Those shiesty, cunning, fake-ass Jews. Yeah. Let's deal with the true essence of what's happening. This is what we got to deal with. It's a religious aspect too, because you got almost every rapper on the video with a cross around their neck and don't know what the cross represents, right? So now we got a European symbolism and imagery of what the cross is, not recognizing that the cross actually means peace. It doesn't mean death. It doesn't mean crucifixion. The cross means peace. The cross means the 4 equilateral planes, east, west, north, and south. The cross also means earth, air, water, and fire, the elements. This is spiritual. This is cosmological. Until we go back to who we are, we won't recognize this, and we'll keep being demonized by global white supremacy, demonized by psychopathic racists who control hip-hop. I'm saying this for a reason. I'm saying this because this is no longer our culture. Hip-hop is no longer our culture. Hip-hop has become, I'm going to tell you what it's become. It's become a bitch and a hoe for American psychopathic behavior and culture. Because the first thing they do is they blame hip-hop for what? They blame hip-hop for everything that's going on in the community. Somebody go out and kill somebody, they blame a Tupac rap. As if killing didn't exist before so-called hip-hop. Come on. As if racism didn't exist. As if poverty didn't exist. As if all these aspects of inhumanity and insanity didn't already exist. We gotta deal with this shit. Sex, the dehumanization, well, the flat out feminization of the male. We got brothers walking around in pink shirts. Feminization. Let's make this clear. They're trying their best to take away the black manhood and to take away that warriorship and to take away that God and that goddess. We already dealt with what they do to the women in the videos, what they do to the women in hip-hop in general. We got to recognize it. I know it's a lot of different aspects of hip-hop, but we can easily put that under the construct of global white supremacy because we don't own any of it anymore. So we got to recognize that. We got to recognize what we have become because we've allowed foreign entities. We've allowed a social rearing. We've allowed this type of conformity. But we think hip-hop is ours. But we don't control anything. And this is not to disrespect anyone who is part of hip-hop. I know hip-hop from being on the street corner, on cardboards, before corporate America got involved with it. That shit is hip-hop. I know hip-hop when it was just about being on the street corner and rhyming. That's hip-hop. I know hip-hop in regards to fashion. That's hip-hop before corporate sponsorship got involved. I know what real hip-hop is. That's real hip-hop. Hip-hop that comes from your heart and your soul and your spirit. And you not tripping off of rhyming on 16 bars because you already know that everything is in sync with your heart energy. Everything is in sync with your chakras and your karma and so on and so forth. That shit is hip-hop and you can't put a price on hip-hop. Right. You can't put a price on it. Yeah. We got to get back to that. We got to get back to our true essence before everybody and their mama start telling us what hip-hop is. Before the Asians start telling us what hip-hop is. Before the white boys start telling us what hip-hop is. Before everybody start writing their books, which they already are, about what hip-hop is, when hip-hop began, but they not include you. They're not talking to you about Kemet. They're not talking to you about Ta-Nehisi. They're not talking to you about nothing in the Nile Valley. As if it didn't exist. They're not talking to you about the dances. All of the dances that most definitely is African dances that had to do with spiritual concepts, spiritual principles, cosmology, had to do with agriculture, vegetation, things of that nature, paying homage to what allowed you to continue to live. That's hip-hop. That's why we dying today. Because we allowed a foreign entity to come in and give us hip-hop and tell us what it is. And now we barely surviving. We barely breathing as slaves. Hotel.
This trend, the sagging pants, was part of that agenda. In order to get the kids in the neighborhoods to follow this trend, they had to get the artists to start wearing it. However, the trend actually started in jail. So it's part of that whole monarch mind control, is because the sagging pants actually signifies jail. And people don't even realize that, you know, it's a whole circle. It's a 360. And I'm going to show you more about that later in this video, about how even states have instituted laws now that make it illegal for you to wear sagging pants. But it started in prison with the people having their belts removed, and then it became a trend in jail to signify that you were available for homosexual sex. So by having your butt exposed, you were telling the other inmates that not only were you willing and able, but you were ready. One of the people who helped to bring this fad to the industry is Jimmy Iovine, who himself is gay, and many artists who have been signed to Interscope, which is his label, have been asked to participate and have done it in gay sex with this man here, Jimmy Iovine, president of Interscope Records. Ice-T, not Ice-T, excuse me, Dre, Ice Cube, Eazy-E, all of these brothers have been through the Interscope camp. And Pac even said, I have it on one of my earlier videos, how Dre sleeps with men and women. Now this brother here, he might as well not have pants on at all, because not only is he exposing his behind, he's also exposing his frontal area. So, you know, what message is that sending? And what woman would be attracted to someone dressed like this? Even young girls. I mean, a grown man would not walk around the streets like that. T.I., who is one of the main models for this fashion, everywhere you see him in every outfit, he has his pants sagging. And here's a brother who got caught with more ammunition than you can find on a gun range, and he's free. If that was a brother in the hood, they'd still be doing time, and probably be doing it for a very long time. But that only tells you that he is part of the secret agenda, because as long as you participate in the agenda and you allow yourself to be used, you will receive favor from these demons. They will protect you, and you'll have the police on your side, and the FBI and the DEA, and you'll be okay for the most part, because you won't have to worry. And here's 50. Hip hop is full of clowns, and 50 is part of that circus. And so here he is doing what he does, clowning with his pants all the way down, showing his underwear. And if that's not gay, I don't know what is. But this is what he's paid to do. And he's also a part of that Interscope Jimmy Iovine, Dr. Dre camp. All right. Now here's a picture of him with his hands in his pants. And, you know, I'm not in the industry anymore, but unfortunately my phone rings and my internet is full of emails with people telling me about things that continue to go on. And I have been told by reliable sources that he participates in gay sex. And a lot of them who appear so hardcore. Now that I've seen this picture with him holding this huge dildo, that's what he's holding, a huge penis on a radio station. He knows he's being photographed. He doesn't care. And he's allowing it to happen. And he's smiling. Now, what man would allow himself to be photographed holding a huge penis? And here he is holding another dildo, you know. And so what is he saying? What is the message that's being represented here? Now, here people thought he was whispering to the game, but he wasn't. He was kissing him on the cheek. And look at his eyes are closed, as in a passionate type of you know, thing. I'm not saying game is gay, but who knows? You know, a lot of these guys, you know, you can go places and you can see some of the guys who go to these gay clubs. They look very hard, and they actually go with men and women. A lot of them are bisexual. So, you know, we need to think about this, folks. This is so not a game. All of this is part of the overall agenda, which is to poison your mind. The music industry, the wealth is drying up fast. So now they're targeting our children. And it's all part of the overall agenda, people. We need to see it for what it is. The government sanctioning gay marriage is only a small piece of it. We are becoming a society that is devoid of morals.
If you're in certain religions, you can tell what particular spirit is possessing the person by the very nature of the behavior that the individual is exhibiting and the very shape of their very physiological body and their face. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, once we get the spirits of these demons that the Europeans have implanted in our bodies, our faces and our bodies themselves will be transformed. To a great extent then, a lot of the way we look and a lot of the way we have organized ourselves physically is a result of the type of consciousness that we have. To a great extent, and I will begin to wrap it up here, to a great extent, the kind of consciousness that inhabits us reflects the kind of culture that we live in, the nature of the culture that we are a part of. Recognize, ladies and gentlemen, that culture cannot exist outside of our minds and of our bodies. Culture does not exist out there. History does not exist out there. History and culture can only exist in the minds and bodies of people. If there were no people in the world, there would be no history in the world, no culture in the world. Culture does not stand outside and direct us. It is where? Inside of us, and it directs us from the inside. Culture is instilled in our bodies and in our minds. And we have to keep that in mind, because sometimes we tend to see it as something separate from ourselves. Culture indwells in us, and it inhabits our bodies. Our history dwells in us, and it inhabits our bodies. We reflect our history, and we reproduce our history when that history becomes a part of us and is one with us. We tend to see culture in terms of music, in terms of the kind of dance we have, in terms of the songs we sing. And that is a part of culture. But ultimately, culture is deeper than that. Culture is a way of thinking. Ultimately, culture is a conspiracy. That is, it is a means by which a group of people organize the way they think, organize the way they believe, organize the way they see the world, so as to create a consciousness by which they can cooperate in achieving certain ends, so that they can mutually aid each other and gain ends that they cannot gain as separate individuals. So culture is an instrument of power. The individual through culture extends his power, and the culture extends the power of the group. When we talk about music and song and dance, what we are talking about here then is how culture ultimately comes to be implanted in our bodies. You see, we tend to look at song and dance and music as entertainment. And this is a serious mistake. We have a lot of our youth out there looking at music as mere entertainment. When we say that we are being enculturated, it means that a spirit is being implanted in us by the culture. It means our group is instilling in our bodies and in our minds a possessing spirit such that when our culture calls our name, we respond to it. When our culture is in need of defense and support, we then defend it and support it because we are at one with it. In other words, why does the black man respond to the white man? Why does the black man serve the white man? Why does everything the black man do benefit the white man? Why does the black man say freedom is doing what I want to do? And why is it that everything he wants to do enriches the European? Why is it that our youth say that they are being free and that they're doing what they want to do and they're expressing themselves, and it involves buying a $100 pair of sneakers from white folk? Yes. Yes. All of this kind of stuff. Why? Because the spirit that is implanted in the human mind and in the human psyche is there to only respond to its creator and to its master. And therefore, when you let another people generate a spirit in you, when you let another people generate certain values in you, when you let another people generate a certain look, generate a certain reality for you, when you let another people let you see yourself in a particular sort of way and see your own people in a particular sort of way, they have implanted a spirit, and that spirit has been created by them, and that spirit only responds to them. And it only responds to them in terms of furthering their interest and working against the interest of the body it possesses. And this is why there's that self-destructive spirit in us. Because the demon that possesses a body is not there for that body. It is there for the creator that placed it there. And if necessary to obey its creator, it destroys that body. It will destroy the body it inhabits. The taste that that spirit has will be taste that can only be satisfied by buying from its master creator. The values that that spirit wishes to satisfy and realize can only be realized by going through the aegis of the master that created it. That is why every value and every taste and every desire and every need that provokes us, every one of these things that we seek to desire, ends up having us going through white folk And that's why we think we need them. And every time we satisfy them, they in some way benefit in our seeking satisfaction. Because the demon that we call ourselves is answering to the call of its master. So a culture creates its own possessing spirits and enculturates and inculcates those spirits into the bodies of its members, so that those members, in defending their own egos, in defending their own interests, in defending what they perceive as their own needs, in satisfying their own taste, in satisfying their own values, satisfy the needs of the culture, enrich the culture, empower the culture, defend the culture, advance the interests of the culture. And how then does the culture implant its spirit into its members? It does it in a very strong and primordial way. It uses vehicles. And one of the major vehicles it's used is music, rhythm, song, dance. A culture involves people moving what? Together, in tandem, in rhythm. It involves them having the same temporal sense, the same kind of time clock, so that they can move in synchrony, one with the other. And music is about synchrony. Poetry is about synchrony. Song is about synchrony. Music is about symbols. And you see, ultimately, it is through symbols that you evoke behavior from people. So when a culture creates symbols, those symbols are designed to evoke particular types of reactions and feelings and moods in its members. And a culture establishes the potency of those symbols through ritual, through song, and through dance. And one of the best ways then to inculcate cultural values, a cultural spirit, is through entertainment. Is while the members are being entertained, while they are feeling good, the song is carrying the cultural values into the mind and into the body. The lyrics that represent the cultural interests, the lyrics that represent cultural values, are being carried on the vehicle of the music, carried through the vehicle of the poetry. The togetherness, the cooperativeness, the mutual movement together and the synchrony of the culture is being entrained through the music and through the rhythm of the dance. Therefore, you see, when you let another people take over your music, when you let another people take over your dance and attach their content to it, they will use your own music and your own dance and your own rap lyrics and your own poetry and your own cultural symbols to carry their message into your body and into your mind, such that you can only respond then to their beck and call and to their wishes. And you see then, yes, you see then that they get you to buy those sneakers, and they get you to buy all of those things by what? Associating them with your what? Your music, with your cultural symbols, you see, with your poetry, with your rhythms. And so they attach their content to our rhythm, their content to our song. Yes, but in a way, they take our own instruments and turn them against the self. Notice how quickly, when one of our youngsters was rhyming "kill the police," that kind of content was washed right out immediately. Yes. But what washout occurs when they sing about shooting each other with their Glocks and the other things? When their contents of self-destructiveness ride on the rhythm of their song and of their dance. And when the cymbals are loaded then with self-destructive elements and content. So what are we saying here then? That enculturation is the process of building in responsivity and ultimately responsibility, the ability to respond to a particular cause. And we then have appropriately enculturated ourselves when we can respond to our own culture and to our own values and to our own needs.
To the I told you so section. I am so disappointed at the rap community. I am extremely disappointed. As an elder, I'm saddened and I'm disappointed at the kind of stupid trash and the degrading way that our sisters and our brothers promote the culture. Now, the problem that I have here was not with the car. It's what they did to the car. And how they are using our sisters, because you're not selling the car in this picture. You're selling a statement. You're selling an idea of what our sisters are about. You want to, quote unquote, pimp out your car, that's fine. But then what they're telling you is, this is what our black women are about once you do pimp it out. And the problem is, I told you this in the I told you so section the last time. And I remember when he first came out. When he first came out, I remember that I believe I was either doing something with the Code Breakers, or I did something over with Sonetta, but I told you all about Eminem. I told you that he was government. I told you that Dre was government. I told you that all those Negroes who came out of NWA was government. You don't come out into the public talking about killing police and then become superstars. If they knew you were real. The idea is that they seeded a culture of resistance so that they could undermine it later on with the Elvis Presley protocol. And that's exactly what they did. Now, when he first came out, we told you who he was. And I told you he would begin to erode the so-called rap culture and then monopolize it. Ladies and gentlemen, I have here, because of good brother Jay, an interview with Benzino, who is the co-owner with the white boy, Source Magazine. Check. Now, Source got something going on with Eminem, so then you know when they start to fighting, dirt starts to fly. And as the dirt starts to fly, you'll start to find out about what you didn't know. So I got, just a minute, y'all don't mind, do you? I want you to hear in the I told you so section what I've been telling you for so long. This is the interview in Hot 97.
Hot 97, we're talking to Dave Mays, co-owner of The Source.
Dave Mays first.
How is the magazine still staying afloat with, like, basically Jimmy Iovine and Interscope pulling all his ads? And I know you said Russell Simmons pulled his ads, you know, and so many people pulling their ads because there's such a beast over there at Interscope right now. I mean, how is The Source staying afloat?
Well, I mean, thankfully, you know, hip-hop is a huge industry now, and you have all kinds of companies that several years ago would never have targeted the hip-hop market that are, you know, car advertising. You look at The Source, 3 years ago, we didn't have a page of car advertising. Now it's our biggest category.
I took that from Source.
So there's a lot of companies out that aren't part of this silly politics of the industry and just want to reach the people. The Source is the #1 selling music magazine in America. We outsell Rolling Stone, Spin, Vibe, every one of our competitors 2-1 on the newsstands. We reach 8 million readers.
Did you hear that? Listen carefully to how they have undermined your children, and they have taken over black expressive evolutionary consciousness and culture. Listen.
I mean, we all know what kind of dollars we spend as consumers buying a lot of these products, so it's an incredible way for companies to reach the audience. So most people are still supporting and advertising in the magazine. It's only those that have been influenced by the politics behind this issue that have pulled out.
Now, before the brother could put the tape in to get the interview, which made him want to jump up and get it, but he missed it, Dave Mays said on the interview, yeah, they took your culture. He stole hip-hop. He said just like jazz, just like rock and roll, and just like everything else, they took it. That's what made him jump up to want to take this thing, but he missed it. But he got some pretty juicy stuff later on.
Now, Dave, one thing that you're kind of positioning this whole lawsuit battle as is like David and Goliath, and I guess, you know, Eminem is the big star, and then he's kind of coming at you guys, and you guys are defending journalistic integrity. But one of the major criticisms of The Source is that they have, you know, put aside journalistic integrity in the interest of their ongoing battles, like whether it is against Eminem or whether it is against, you know, even in taking side with Michael Jackson. So what do you have to say about that? Like, you guys kind of came to the defense of Michael Jackson, and then he is now, you know, it's in the paper all over the place that, you know, there's all these reports about him, you know, masturbating kids and all these other things. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, we never, I mean, as far as Michael Jackson goes, I mean, we made some comments that we support him and that we didn't feel that it was appropriate for that video to be made when he was on trial. I mean, that's the main issue with the Michael Jackson thing. If he isn't up for trial, his life isn't on the line, you know, it's a different situation. He's been made fun of millions of times by everybody. But when you're facing trial for your life, you know, and the biggest artist in the world goes out there and basically convicts you in public.
The biggest artist in the world. Let me say that again. Remember what happened when he got the Academy Award. What did I tell you that was for? He got an Academy Award and all these Grammys. I told him the only thing left was for him to do Broadway. How do you give this cracker an Academy Award for playing inside of black culture? That's what he got it for, 8 Miles, right? A movie about hip-hop and rapping. How did he do that? Why was it done?
His music video, you know, that has the potential to taint the jury. I mean, this is this man's life we're talking about. And everybody in this country, Michael Jackson, whoever is, should get a fair trial. So that's really, again, you know, what that issue is about. And as far as everything else goes, I mean, the issues of calling The Source's integrity into question was a tactic that Interscope put out there to try to make it seem like, you know, this was something we were doing to try to, you know, because Benzino he was mad at Eminem, and it was just a personal situation. But clearly, as time has gone on, people I've seen that this is about the state of hip-hop, the state of the industry. I mean, look what's going on with the sales out there. You know, artists aren't selling records anymore. All great labels over the past 5 or 10 years are being destroyed. I mean, you know, most of the major hip-hop record companies are gone.
As soon as this white boy got in, remember we told you, what was the name of that group, the rap group that came out of, the hip-hop group came out of Queens? Brother got shot. Run DMC. What happened right after they did that video with those white boys? You ain't never heard from him again. He became a minister. He went right out of the business as soon as he did a crossover.
Being bought out, people don't have jobs no more. I mean, this is what Benzino was saying 2.5 years ago and predicting all this was going to happen.
No, Benzino didn't predict it. The underground was predicting this. And it's a shame that we could not reach the young brothers from the hip-hop community who were going in there. But check the excuses.
And people were like, nah, he's just mad at Eminem, and they bought into that. And then, you know, Interscope just hyped it up and said, okay, well, the source doesn't have integrity. They're just using the magazine to beat up on Eminem because Benzino's mad. But now, you know, the facts are coming out.
Dave Mays is Hot 97. He's co-owner of the source, talking about his trial with Eminem and Target. Question.
So let me just go straight to the point. The Source magazine, Dave Mays and Benzino, you actually feel that Eminem is a racist, flat out racist?
I couldn't say that because I don't know this guy. Like, you know, all I can go by is, you know, his actions that I observe and, you know, the songs that he made. Now, those songs were made 10 years ago. He was about 21 or 22 years old when he made the songs. He wasn't 16. You know, at the time he made those records, when you hear all the lyrics, he's calling black people porch monkeys and spear chuckers and, you know, all the N-word he used. To me, he was definitely a racist at the time.
He's a racist.
At the time he made those records. Now, could he have changed? I believe he could. I don't know.
I don't believe so.
Well,
from Mississippi, I ain't never seen a racist reform. So if he was using all those terms at that time, then I might have to ride with y'all that he is a racist.
Now, I would talk to the young brothers and sisters in the streets about Eminem. Oh, he got some nice lyrics. Oh, he got some nice groove. Or he got some nice, what do you call the background music that y'all cut? Nice beats or nice tracks and what? Where is the political awareness of the young brothers and sisters? Hip-hop's all over the world. I said, fool, understand that if hip-hop's going all over the world, they're taking it from you. That the reason they're using hip-hop because they don't have any public, no kind of popular or grassroots cultural material that appeals to everyone the way black people's music do around the world. And you don't understand that when black people, especially black males, become creative, especially musically, the world listens automatically. So they had to gain control of something that they knew, because if Eminem didn't come up, a black icon like they took out, and his name was Tupac, would have taken over. With all his madness, we could have brought him in. Him and Biggie, who said that the two of them were supposed to be secretly hooking up the East and the West Coast so that they would have their own black distributorship for the monies coming out and the talent coming out. The same way they got rid of Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, and Magic Johnson, the three MJs. When they wanted to come together to start a football league, a basketball league, a lawyers consortium to handle all the talent coming out of the black community, every one of them, like dominoes, began falling in the media. So with Eminem...
Well, another interesting thing, though, that you said is that there was no girlfriend, black girlfriend, as he claimed. How did you guys find that out?
We did a lot of research before we came out. We hired a private investigator and investigative reporters. We sent people out to Detroit. We interviewed people from his schools and his friends, and we got a lot of them on record. And there was nobody that knew this guy ever knew him to have a black girlfriend when he was 16. He had a white rap white boys called Basement Productions. That was the rap clique, and they went in, they made the racist rap hour. Wow. That was one of their big recordings, and made all these songs, and you know, that was how their whole thing got started.
Now, how did this cracker skinhead end up in black music unless he was government? Now, another thing, the brothers and sisters, and I'm not using expletives today. And you know this is the kind of material that would get me into that mode, check? But you see, I want this particular video to go PG. Because I want the teachers to not get caught up in the language and get the substance. What we're about to reveal to you today, and I hope you got the patience. Y'all with us for the duration? Y'all gonna be here after the break, because I know y'all just be up and out of the break after that. All right, because this whole day is dedicated specifically, and I don't lecture no more. That's why I say only because of these beloved brothers I come out. Today we got something for you that is gonna blow your mind. I'm just building it up. And I'm glad you're here, because this is going to be an experience that the tape is not going to give to you. Okay? This man was government to begin with. We said so, and it's coming out. The proof is in it, the pudding. Now, listen carefully, because Benzino now comes in.
Dave, one thing though. Okay, in the source and in all magazines that cover rap, we talk about artists that are drug dealers, artists that are women beaters, artists who have done a various different things. So what is the difference? Why are they allowed to have a career and yet a racist rapper shouldn't have a career?
Because this is a predominant. I'll answer that one.
Thank you, Tom.
Because this is a predominantly black industry that we live, feed, and eat off of, especially you, Info, and especially you, Envy. So if it's a racist white rapper, he shouldn't be able to make no damn money. That's what it is.
But a drug dealer should. But a drug dealer,
you know what? I don't believe in the drug dealers either.
Or a murderer.
You know what? But you sit here every day, and you stroke these dudes, murderers, drug dealers. You kiss their ass. So I think Eminem should get the same damn beating. Hey, Dave, push on, brother.
Thank you, Tom.
Dave, we appreciate your call.
Now, he got it with that. You sit there all the time in your interviews with them, stroke them, and like she said, kiss their asses. Knowing that they are murderers, drug pushers, wife beaters, whatever.
I appreciate you having me. Magazine, and we'll hope to see you in better things next year. And
I'm sorry, I just gotta say this. It would probably even, and I know this will be a scary approach, but he'd probably come off better and sell even more units if he would come face to face and be honest and expose his racism.
Now, this is the conciliatory, feminist, we want to accept, and all this. This is the problem with the female psyche. She wants to accept everything. She wants to love everybody. You can't love this beast. He is your sworn enemy. He does not want to be ruled by you. And everything you do when you open your mouth, when you place your mind on something to build it and make it, you do it greater than he does. He knows that. And every time he enters in here, it is to find ways to weaken you. So the feminine principle about, well, maybe if he just admitted he was a racist, he may sell more units. No! If I admitted to a cracker skinhead that you are a sick, psychological, insane maniac, and I want you to accept me. This is where the feminine feeling for whatever got to step back. Cold discretion and understanding who the enemy is. To heck with all of that. We don't want you to sell more because, you know what she said? Maybe he'll sell more units if he says he's a racist. Did Malcolm become more accepted? Brother Khalid become more accepted? Because he pointed out their racism.
Of the now or of the past, because I'm sure his sentiments reflect that of a lot of his fans.
Right.
He could go even further, like
same way that he did with his homophobia and with
exactly.
This is the part when Benzino comes into the interview.
But because you want to still appeal to the black kids, you don't want to go that far and expose that much about yourself. But if it's there, like, just...
He didn't have to expose himself. Look at what happens to hip-hop with all of our powerful teachers. Will somebody please tell me what in the hell is wrong with Flavor Flav?
Clear as fire. Where he's going.
Crack got
drugged out.
The crackhead just asked this woman if she would have his baby on national television. I know that Chuck must be turning, he must got continual diarrhea. Well, he might, you know, I can't say that because, you know, there's been too much stroking going on. And it's funny how Benzino comes in at this point.
They're real calculated at like what they do up there, and believe me, like I said,
Benzino.
You know, once we drop this other thing about Jimmy Iovine, I want to see what the whole music world and like what the industry is going to be saying. And because a part of the problem is the industry. You know what I'm saying? You got a lot of these guys out here who just are really scared of everything over there, scared to say anything.
Right, because they never know when they're going to need an Eminem feature on their records, or when they're going to need Jimmy Iovine, the Greenlighter Project, or when they might... Yeah.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting the amount of influence Interscope has because they basically scare people into playing or not playing whatever they want to hear or whatever they don't want to hear.
Yeah, but then you know what? You can't even completely blame Interscope or these artists that turn the other cheek because at the end of the day, they have bills to pay, and that's how the game,
Now you see the mentality? I got bills to pay. No revolutionary mindset, no integrity. And you know, after 25 years, I thought that something was being done. Nothing, it seems. We ain't going nowhere. It feels like I'm trying to go up or down escalator. You have to run hard, and you get to about midway, and then...
Jonesy, but they're messing it up for everybody else.
People don't care about nobody else. People do not care about the next man.
Not at all.
People do not care about...
Now, instead of her saying that people should care, she propagates the sickness by telling people, well, that's not what it is. We don't care, so let's keep going anyway.
Man, especially, unfortunately, black people. They trying to get their family taken care of, and they trying to make their name a household name. They're not trying to make history or make it better for the next...
Do you hear that? Is that sad? But did I tell you that that's exactly what hip-hop would do with all the money? That because hip-hop does not have any guidance, it's going to come back and it's going to destroy the community. I told you that. The hip-hop and the rap separated. Because true hip-hop and rap are not the same.
Hold on, you ain't got to go nowhere, right?
Nah, I'm good.
Benzino is on the line with us, and if you'd like to speak to him or you got questions, because I'm sure y'all do, now's your opportunity to get that off. 1-800-223-9797. It's Miss Jones in the morning on Hot 97. What is it? The alleged showdown last night at a Detroit radio station between Dave Mays and Eminem. Did Eminem actually spit on Dave Mays like he's claiming?
I don't know if he spit on Dave. I know he went up there and talked a lot of ish, but my thing is, this cracker would have never went up there if I was up there. And my thing is, if he got money and I got money, let's go fly 10 people out to the Grand Canyon. Or like maybe me and him will just fly out there. Like, he's such a coward. He would have never pulled that issue if I was up there. And he was up there by himself. So it's not like Dave was so scared to go to Detroit.
Right. And he was probably thinking that as a businessman, okay, I have business to handle, let me just go handle my business, not thinking that Eminem would be so coward as to use that as an opportunity to appear gangster.
And then go up there and say, if it wasn't for the cameras, I would do this and do that. Man, if you want to do something, you're going to do it.
Is it true that you tried to go on the station or call into the station after the whole incident went down, and then Eminem's crew said that if they let you do that, they would shut the station down?
I mean, I know that one of the DJs got on the phone and was like, no, we can't have you up here. Eminem, he's not gonna do nothing. He just came up there and he's this and that, but we can't have you come up here. We have to let this die down. You can't come up here. You can't come up there, because I was getting ready to get on the plane 9 in the morning. First flight out, I was there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because they didn't call me until like I was in Puerto Rico at the time.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying? So
well, thank God the Jock didn't try and feed into the beef and tried to at least let things cool off.
I mean, you know what though? But it's like Dave's there by himself against 10 dudes. So what really can Dave do? Dave held his ground though. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like proud of my man. You know what I'm saying? Because Dave ain't no coward, man. Dave done been around me, and Dave done been around enough real-ish. You know what I'm saying? Not to get all nervous when things happen. So, you know what I'm saying?
And nor does he proclaim to be a gangster of any sort. He's a businessman. That's what you know about.
Mays went to graduated from Harvard, handles business every day.
Right.
Right around here and talk.
We got somebody running a rap magazine, graduated from Harvard. Smart man, right? Everybody know where the money is when black folks around, except black folks.
Met somebody who wants to beef with people. No. If it's going to be that, then let that be his other half. Let that be me. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Now, Interscope Records and Jimmy Iovine seemingly using his financial wherewithal to possibly, well, he supposedly put money behind your competing magazine. And are you afraid at all with this trial that they will try and financially drain you and shut the Source magazine down?
We're good. Me, Dave's good. Source magazine is good. We don't got the advertisement of Jimmy Iovine and his #1 coon, Russell Simmons.
Is that #1 coon?
Coon. We told you. Do you want to know what happened to black culture? What is wrong with us today? Now, if he was to walk in the hood 10, 20 years ago with that, what are you doing in here with that? Look like a hairy rat with a coat. He put a coat on his dog. The dog this big, about the size of a shoe. And he walking around with it. That is the new hip-hop. This is your hip-hop hero. You have no more culture. You have been absorbed. Listen to what he says about the #1 coon, Russell Simmons.
You know what I'm saying? We don't got the...
Wow!
We don't got the advertisement. Did you just call him a coon?
I need a sound effect, folks. Wow!
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is, you know?
Why do you call him that? Why?
I mean, because he is. Because on every station he's sticking up for Eminem in trailer parks across the country. What does this guy know about that? He needs to worry about what's going on in Queens where he grew up and try to help some people over there.
you know his wife got some kind of style program where all she talk about is toilet bowls and how we could make you over and the most superficial crap. And everything is makeover. This is the result of what I have said is the feminization of our society. We are worried about making over constantly. Queer people are bum rushing hard-working men to put makeup on them.
You know what I'm saying?
You don't think that Russell Simmons does a lot through his hip-hop action summit action network?
Man, Russell Simmons is a clown, man, and everybody knows it.
Did we have to wait for him to hear this? No, because we told you he was a clown.
Okay, Russell Simmons stuck up for Jimmy in Eminem because of a money thing. It's all about a money thing. You know, it's all about the best interest of money thing. Now, mind you, okay, the vote's over, Bush is in. You're not going to hear too much more from Russell. Like, you don't hear too much more. Like, the whole thing is over with. Really.
Right.
You don't hear too much from him no more.
And let me just say this, in fairness, Russell, if you would like to call the show, of course, you know, we'll give you the opportunity to say what's on your mind. Just have to put that out there. But
Russell will call up.
Yeah, please.
If he call, ain't nobody gonna get to talk.
Because Russell can talk.
We be here till tomorrow. Man, Russell, see, you know what Russell is to corporate America? They believe Russell is the pulse of hip hop, corporate America.
Because they don't.
He is what is called a what? A hip-hop mogul.
No better.
You see, exactly. But as long as Russell can, you know what I'm saying, say the stuff that he says and go to the Hamptons and, you know, look like he's, you know what I'm saying, go like Fashion Week, Mr. Fashion Week, but it's not really, he doesn't represent us. He doesn't represent the struggle. He doesn't represent the music. And it's really sad that Russell has him turn to this because at one point, Russell Simmons did mean something. So now it's just all about paper. It's all about money for these people.
Isn't it inevitable, though, that it all comes down to that?
Nah, not for me it don't. Not for David don't. You see, so that's why I really can't believe it does. You know, it doesn't to me. It's about the future of our music. It's about the future of our culture.
Really? Is there a light peeking through?
And, you know, the stuff we do today are going to end up coming back to haunt us tomorrow.
Told you that 10 years ago. Maybe it takes time. A minute or two, because you know in the underground, we like 5 years ahead of everybody.
Trust me.
Are you even the slightest bit concerned that with Busta, who signed to Dre, and Dre, who signed to Interscope, and Eve, who signed to Dre, and G-Unit, and 50, all that affiliation?
So Busta's gone. Eve, well, she was gone when she began. The G-Unit. All of these people are now gravitating like moths to a flame into Interscope. Now listen to what Benzino says about that gravitation of black talent to Interscope and about your boy, the one I told you how much hip-hop went for on the open market. What was that? 50 Cent. Now every time you see, say when he's on the red carpet going into some kind of function, what would his fans shout to him to get his attention? $50. What that sound like? Auction! That's how much hip-hop was worth on the open market to these crackers. And remember I told you they bought and sold you for 50 cents. And as soon as this white boy came out, I knew hip-hop was gone, period, because Elvis Presley had come back on the scene.
I don't even want to cut you off, but remember, like Mary went over to Aftermath and she hasn't been doing so well, so it's not like everybody going over to that one spot is going to do good, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that whole sound is going to start getting tired. Even your man Boo Boo had to push his album back, great Boo Boo had to push his album back.
Who's that?
50.
Boo Boo.
He got to push his album back from St. Valentine's Day to like March something now, so, you know. I'm out the loop on the Boo Boo thing. Could somebody get me up to speed, please?
No, it's just funny.
That's his nickname back in Queens, Boo Boo.
When last you heard somebody named Boo Boo? Yogi Bear. Now you know, if he came out with a name like that in the hip-hop community, so his name is Boo Boo. Now y'all got something that y'all can spread around in the community. Kind of take him down a notch on the thug list, doesn't it?
Oh my God. This goes in the morning where nicknames get exposed. Well, I was going to ask you if you were even the slightest bit concerned that if you don't have these artists like that supporting your magazine, that eventually that's going to turn people off.
I mean, eventually all these artists are running over. They're going to find out that they're not going to really be able to eat because everybody's going to be in one kitchen. When you got everybody in one kitchen, how can everybody eat? Everybody's bumping into each other. Right. Some people were taking all the chicken. Some people took all the rice. It's not going to work like that.
Now, the reason why I took this time and kind of saturated this moment with what I had to say is because I need a little time to get the I told you so over. If you heard it from me, but if you hear it from the broader society, that it's all crumbling, it's coming down. Now what you going to do about it? They snatched hip-hop. Just like they snatched R&B, they snatched everything that we have done strategically. It's tactical to undermine who you are. They took so-called jazz at the level that Grover Washington and Stanley Turrentine had just elevated jazz to a whole kind of rhythm and blues jazz feel. And we remember Mr. Magic. That was the first so-called smooth jazz. And as soon as that happened, they exported that over to Europe, and all the Europeans began doing smooth jazz, and then they exported it back, because Gary Bird told me while I was riding in the car, he said, man, you got to check this new station out called CD 101.9. And everybody playing was getting down like Grover Washington, but we're white. So now what we're saying to you, beloved brothers and sisters, who do have a chance to listen to this tape, because it's going to get deeper, you now have to understand, overstand, and understand that your culture is your prize. Your music is what sets you free and everyone else. If you did not estrange yourself by being caught up in the games, dealing with visuals that don't do anything for us as a people, showing that you have been colonized. Now, a man sitting up there with a name like Ludacris, doing something as stupid as this to show that he has money when people are hungry, is ludicrous. And it ain't like you're looking at a man that is trying to say something and then clown like Funkadelic and George Clinton, because when George Clinton clowned, he put the serious information inside of it. He would be the court jester whose job it was to criticize the king and get away with it right in front of the king. Because if you said, anyone else said what the jester would say to the king, off with his head. So the court jester now has been lost. One of our most powerful mouthpieces to the king has become now a joke. It ain't like we get this ludicrous to them is what we are. And when this fool is burning a Benjamin Franklin to show me he got money, it shows me he ain't got no sense. He may have dollars, but he ain't got no sense. Oh, disturbing the peace. What peace? What peace? Another very ill and sick part of this whole deal is the fact that the rap community has taken hundreds and thousands of dollars of the money that they earned off our children to give back to the cracker so that they could make this stupid bling. Now, another thing the rap community has not shown me is that they learn anything about their culture. They keep pushing this slave symbol. Juvenile, Ludacris, 50, Boo Boo. All of it shows that we are now becoming culturally retarded. But it's funny because Bushwick Bill may have said something by just wearing the words. And you know they're busting up for a moment. But I think this says it all. Now you may say, no man. And the young people are going to get upset because this is our culture. We as elder people supposed to be arguing with y'all. We supposed to be mad at y'all, and you all are supposed to make us pissed off with you. Why? Everything you're using in your hip-hop records belongs to us. We gave you the music that started you off. That still makes you go. And they changed the laws of music so that you could do that and not pay us. What I'm doing, brothers and sisters, is showing you in this lecture that we are all secretly wearing chattel tags of slavery, from the labels on our clothing, to the RFID chips threaded in them, to the social security card and driver's license we all carry.
Hip-hop is one of the most popular, well-known, highly exported products in this country. Going back again to Baraka's point, it is a product of a community that is engaged and still to this day a hostile relationship to the state being the United States.
The media piece is central to this discussion. Who controls it? Who owns it?
In hip-hop, or music in general, you have, in this country, 3 corporations that control all the popular expression of the form. Now, there may be all these subsidiary labels, Bad Boy and Cash Money and whoever else, but only 3, all of them have distribution deals with 3 corporations, and this is really how colonialism works. It allows you to produce whatever you want, and then those in power select from that which will be made popular and used against the population itself. So what you do is, you let everybody, all of us can make music, and everybody can go out here and make music. You can be in your basement. The technology exists where we can make a lot of great music wherever we want. But if you want to get on the radio, if you want to have a video, if you want to have a promotional budget, if you want to be so-called famous and so-called rich, you have to sign a deal with one of these 3 labels: Universal Music Group, Sony, and Warner Music Group. So there's a direct link between the 1996 Telecommunications Act, which gives all this ownership to a handful of people, and what they call the end of the golden age of hip-hop. I think there's a direct one-to-one link that can be made. The version that is promoted for political and cultural economic reasons. And as I was trying to argue to maintain social order. There's all kinds of movements going all over the place, but it's the political consciousness element that is always suppressed.
while the rest is promoted. And you have to remember that hip-hop emerges at a time where the structure of media ownership itself reorganized and consolidated. You talk about, John Coltrane wasn't considered a great one initially. And I'm trying to argue that if Coltrane had come at a time when the same sort of media organization and political, societal, shift had occurred, we would never have heard him, or he would have been relegated to the deepest underground elements. He would have been consigned to the same position that you could say that, that the people I mentioned earlier are set to, or Pharoah Monch is over here, but Lil Wayne is over here. And people be like, oh, and then, imagine Judging Jazz by Kenny G. Exactly. It's the same, it is the exact same thing. The biggest problem that we have is the collective absence of transference. We haven't done enough to combat what they are going to do, which is to distort and destroy any potentially positive progressive element that we produce in any form.
The former University of Maryland basketball star Len Bias dropped dead from a cocaine overdose. He had just signed a basketball contract with the Boston Celtics and a 10-year, multi-million-dollar contract with Reebok. 10 days after that, the 28th of June, a second African-American athlete, Don Rogers of the Cleveland Browns, dropped dead from cocaine poisoning. The politicians with that found their issue. Within weeks, the country was marching in lockstep to this cocaine problem. The '86 Celtics were the NBA champions. Their number one draft pick, Len Bias, now just dropped dead from a cocaine overdose. Now, this had a profound impact on then Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill. Where's Tip O'Neill from? Boston. O'Neill, immediately upon returning to Congress, called an emergency meeting of the crime-related committee chairman. He said, write me some goddamn legislation. And that, to a great degree, from the legislative perspective, is what really got the ball rolling. So from there, we got the Comprehensive Crime Control Act of '84, which created federal preventive detention so judges could deny bail. It eliminated federal parole. It toughened mandatory minimums for those use of firearms, commission of federal crime. We got the '86 Anti-Drug Abuse Act, which imposed 29 new mandatory minimum sentences. Among them, 5-year minimums for possession of 500 grams of cocaine. That was under Bush. We got the Anti-Drug Abuse Act of '88. Federal death penalty for persons guilty of participating in federally defined continuing criminal enterprises. Hence, who was the brother from here? Rayful Edmonds. The Violent Crime Control Act of '94 under Clinton hired 100,000 new police officers, funding state prison building, expanded federal capital punishment for 16 new crimes. So as a result of the crack wars and powder cocaine epidemic hit our streets, people got scared. They wanted a quick solution. Lock them up was the reply.
This was just the non-metro prisons, right? The rural prisons before 1970, right? There were 500 prisons in the country in 1970. Now there are more than 1,700. The 1,100, 1,200 that have been built since 1970, 70% of those are in rural areas. You see all of this prison building in the South. Right, the South really drove prison building, and disadvantaged blacks and Hispanics are in those places.
Conservatives started cutting taxes, they started cutting budgets, and with that social programs began to get cut. Prison programs began to get cut. It became harder to go to prison with some type of social adjustment problem, whether that be an alcohol problem or a drug problem, reading below grade level, or without any marketable skill, and come out as a reformed individual. Because what we really saw was a dramatic change in the 1960s from a policy of and a thought of rehabilitation to the thought of strict incarceration. The images of television were showing young African American men and Hispanic men in inner cities with guns, shooting, killing, causing all kinds of mayhem in the community, and the remedy? Lock them up. They're disposable anyway.
Lawrence Bobo made the point that this mass incarceration is creating, we call it internal colonies of black people all around the country. Then what you see is that the same pattern would have to be applied to music, which is that the cultural expression of a colonized population is distorted and used against them, just as any other product of a colonized population would be used. At the time, my point is that at the height of this black visibility, this black popularity is also the height of black incarceration and increasingly devolving conditions of black America across the board in terms of health, economy, economic access, joblessness. And if you set a standard for what is acceptable in the popular culture, people will resist other forms of their own cultural expression, even if they're confronted by it. And my one example of this, and I have many that are more anecdotal, is that in my class I played. Lil Wayne had put out that song "A Million," which was just about 1 million women, $1 million, 1 million drunks he saw, 1 million whatever, 1 million women he slept with, or whatever. And I played the remix version by Nat Turner, the Devil Burner, Uno the Prophet. And he said, he did a song, same beat, same flow, but it was 1 million Africans taken, 100 million Africans, 100 million indigenous people slaughtered by imperialism, and so on and so forth.
1 million Africans, 2 million Africans, 10 million Africans, 100 million Africans. They say we ain't got no right to complain. I just laugh at them. You can have the whips and the chains. I don't hate on them, but hopefully they gonna catch up. I ain't gonna wait on them. Kanye, Lupe, Pharrell, I will skate on them.
And I played for the class. And one young woman said, I wish I had to take it. It was one of the most powerful things I've seen in my classroom. She said, I can't argue with you, Dr. Bum. She said, because I said, look, the flow, you can't tell me the flow wasn't as good. It's obviously the same beat, so what's the problem? She said, we're not used to that content. She said, I just can't take that content. It was specifically the message that was turning her off. And she acknowledged, because we're not used to hearing it, is what she said. We're not used to hearing it. And that sort of explains what many in academia and outside of political activism have been saying for a long time. It just makes the point that if you establish the norm and you give Lil Wayne, and that's all you give, and that's all you promote, and you demonstrate just implicitly that, look, this is what you will be rewarded for doing. And it's very simple. It happens to us all. You hear a song the first time, you're like, that's whack. It's whack. You hear it again. I hate this song. You hear it again. Well, it's got to, that third verse is kind of dope. It's got a catchy thing. And then we say it grew on us. And then we go off, buy it, download it, bootleg, whatever you want to do. But in reality, it has been imposed on us. It has been imposed on us the same way you would impose a national anthem or a pledge of allegiance or even a group's identity is imposed on people so that they can be managed in their behavior. In this context of mass incarceration, if we just ask ourselves a question, in popular rap music, what are the images of incarceration? And we could extend this to popular media in general, we can see similar patterns, and I've sort of covered them already. In some cases, prisons are seen as a rite of passage. We don't have proper rite of passages in the African community in this country. So many times people see it as a rite of passage. We have to go to prison. That's how people are conferred legitimacy. I did time.
And I think the reason why some of the ex-offenders are looked to as models is because they come from those communities, and then they come back to those communities, and they've come through a process where they have stories to share. Right? And the youth in hip-hop are interested in military or physical power. How do you defend yourself? How do you shut other folks down? How do you do any of those things? Right? Those kinds of things. And I think the warrior stories are the ones that tell the children. We don't take
ownership of money. And they're hearing that in the stories of the offenders. I went to prison because I bust clients, right? American Bandstand, where he charts the amount of references in popular rap lyrics to specific commercial products. And you can just see Nike, AK-47 was in the top 10 one year, Mercedes, Louis Vuitton, all this other kind of stuff. And then, you know, you look at the people who created industries of matching MCs to product to get the products mentioned in the lyrics. And then you put it together with what I was saying earlier about the corporate structure, and you have a system that intentionally creates a version of the art form that's specific to the commercial enterprise or to the capitalist economy.
Okay? So we're consuming it, other people are consuming it, so the control of our images, you know, is really, people are looking at us through what they think we are, not who we are.
There's an intentionally constructed popular image of blackness that is meant to support the conditions black people are suffering.
Well, I did it. You know, I got to be punished for it. And I just wanted out of the
story is not great anymore. He's back to being a criminal, and he's dangerous to society.
In this case, in terms of mass incarceration, you need a popular image of black people in this country that's going to support and justify this kind of tendency to put black people in jail.
You already judged me before you even knew me by reading the newspaper. What type of shit is that? They doing their shit, they doing the same thing we doing, they just keeping their shit clean. They come down here, oh, we're gonna do this to you, we're gonna do that, we're gonna do this. They come behind your back, fuck that nigga, leave his ass down there. They smile in your face and stab you in your back.
Proud of prison industry, CCA, Whacking Hut, you know, they change the names around, whatever, okay? These are global businesses now. They're global. So I use the phrase second middle passage. I mean, that's essentially what we're in the second middle passage. Because they're already shipping folks all over the country back and forth in an industry that's totally unregulated and out of sight of just the prison construction. I dealt with a state legislator in Wisconsin who said he was going to visit his constituents in Tennessee because CCA had built a wing of the prison in Tennessee to house Wisconsin inmates who were being shipped, all African American and Latino, by the way, from Wisconsin to Tennessee. You think about how families are going to be able to visit families when your child is now 3 states away or 4 states away or however many states away.
There was a white demographer who was looking at population trends and saw that the African American population in this very small town in Colorado had grown by 700% in the span of a year and a half, and he couldn't figure out why. And what he finally determined was a private prison had been built in this small town, and all these brothers, a lot of them from DC, had been shipped to Colorado.
When we're shipping people from Alaska to Texas, okay, from Connecticut to Virginia, from Wisconsin to Tennessee.
I can tell you from my case study, because I moved my wife and 2 small kids from Chicago to rural Arkansas to study a town that cited a prison. And I wasn't just talking off the top of my head when I said there's like 5 white families that own the town. They own all the land in the town. If they decide they want a prison, they will co-opt their black middle class or the Latino middle class, right, offering them goodies. But my case study suggests that this just doesn't go on there. And this isn't about black people. That's a correlation. You're absolutely right. It's not a causation. The causal mechanism are the white town fathers, not mothers, white town fathers who say, we need a prison. And they don't say, we need a prison because we need to oppress some black people from afar. They say we need a prison because these crazy black people here are tearing up the town. So we need more jobs in this town.
They don't give a fuck if you're a female, you a man, they don't care about nothing. They don't like black people. When I went up there, I seen the demeanor of these officers. They'd tell chicks, all my hoes get up on the count, call you bitches, want to fight you. It's not even a game. They don't like your skin color. And they tell you the only time that they see black people is when they come to this jail to come to work because they don't live in their communities.
So what these folks are trying to do is stabilize themselves, right? So prisons are stigmatized just like prisoners are. But if your town is stigmatized, the town I looked at had 30% of the rentals in town were public or subsidized housing. 28% of the folk in town were under the poverty line. At one point in time, their unemployment rate was 30%. That's what's going on in these rural areas, right? So you don't care if you get any benefits. You just want some benefits because you're desperate. You're in a bad way.
Recidivism pays. If you're in a private prison business, you want people to come back into the prison. That's how you make your money. If you think I'm joking, I will tell you what happened when the, quote, good year boom of the Clinton administration and the stockholders, the CCA and other corporations, they're on the record on this. The CEOs, the stockholders are saying, hey man, the crime rate's going down. We're not incarcerating at the same rate. There's empty bed space here. How are we going to make money? Our value of our stock is going down. Don't worry about it. We're going to incarcerate immigrants big time until the economy goes into the tank. And then we'll start incarcerating the same old regular folks once the crime rate goes back up.
Another problem that we have is how we understand the connection between labor and prisons, right? Gary Becker, back in the 60s, I think it was 68 or 69, is the economics of crime approach, right? So the calculus in it is really elegant, but it was all based on a model of deterrence. So if we understand labor as a model of deterrence, we're not fully contextualizing the benefits of a job, right? Well, I'll give you a quick critique of the deterrence model and what some of the thinking it's led to. William Bennett, our former Secretary of Education, was on some show and he says, yeah, I'm not suggesting that we do this, but if we kill more blacks and Latinos at one point in time, if we have more blacks and Latinos, if we kill more black and Latino babies, we'd have a lower crime rate. So that's the framework behind the economics of crime model.
You know, there was a time you could go in with a drug problem and you could come out drug-free. There was a time when you could go in without reading at grade level. You could get your GED. You could get a college diploma. You could get a master's. You could come out as a plumber, as an electrician. Those days are fewer and harder to find. Since the early 70s.
We don't look to rehabilitate people. That's not what prison is about. We don't rehabilitate. We're not trying to improve them.
They don't treat me no different, and they ain't gonna treat me no better because I'm the youngest or if I'm the oldest one down here. If they did, I wouldn't be here. And if they gave a fuck about me, my conviction, and if they cared like they say they do, they'd have gave me some type of program instead of sending me back here. Can't accomplish shit back here.
We can't even get prisoner reentry programs. There are 10,000 people serviced every year by one organization is responsible for reentry in Chicago, right? There's 25,000 people that get out of prison every year in Illinois. A quarter of them return to one neighborhood, in and around one neighborhood. And this organization is in that neighborhood. They try to service all 10,000 of them. They come through and they most of them walk right back out because no one's advocating for prisoner reentry. Forget about prisoners.
Materialism, you know, the children typically react to not what we say, but what we do. What we do, okay? But this whole issue of the economics of the prison industrial construct, okay? A lot of what I read here is stock looking at is, hey, how's our star going? Well, we just locked up, the beds with the full, I mean, that's what that reflects, okay? That's what that reflects. That's the reality of what's going on in these prisons. The phone calls that the prisons are making, okay? From AT&T and T-Mobile and whomever has the contract with the prisons, okay? So even if you're poor and you can't travel to see your loved ones, now you gotta pay exorbitant rates to even talk to them.
This is a class issue within Black America. That many of us who escape to the bougie suburbs and to college campuses don't want to talk about mass incarceration because we feel like it makes us look bad, or worse, we feel like, well, they deserve it.
Middle-class black folk in particular have their hands dirty in this. It's not poor whites that want prisons, right? It's the town fathers in the 5 white folks that own whatever small town it is that want the prison. And they go to the managerial class, the blacks in their class. The blacks in their town, the middle class blacks. And they get them to sign off on it. They could fight prison building, which may slow some of it. But the same thing is occurring in inner cities. It's the black middle class on both ends, both demanding prisons, and in my case study, they got minority set-aside contracts to do the plumbing and other stuff in that town, and also driving prisons, driving incarceration. It's not just that white people don't care about black people. Black people don't care about black people. That's the problem. That's the real problem, I submit to you.
Leroy Jones, now Amiri Baraka's blues speaker, he wrote, if the music of the Negro in America, in all its permutations, is subjected to a socio-anthropological as well as musical scrutiny, something about the essential nature of the Negro's existence in this country ought to be revealed, as well as something about the essential nature of this country, i.e. society as a whole.
What is going to be the talking drum for this generation of people as it was for our ancestors when they were held in captivity?
If you look even today at the mixtape scene, which is online as well as still on CD, you find a variety of music and musicality and use of turntables that go far beyond what you give it on radio.
Thomas Edison said that the first principle of innovation is dissatisfaction with who you are.
So the artists are always a threat because they bring numbers. They bring numbers. They bring awards. Why do you keep playing the game when, it's a rigged game from the beginning? From the beginning, it's a rigged game. When you put the construct of being, getting an education solely for the purpose of getting a job to make money, okay? Why are you here? And you actually made it what you're interested in. And you might actually wind up enjoying life a little more when you do what you like and you get paid for what you like. You have basically, gutted, okay, any kind of social movement because the issue isn't about educating people, developing liberation methodologies, finding ways to collaborate across borders, across cultures, to establish a more humane and human world. All you talk about is get a job so you can make money. Boy, go to school so you can make money. Well, if there ain't no job, and that's what you've been preaching me, the only other alternative I have out here is what? Sling crack, baby. Once we learn how to play the game, then we got to learn how the game is played. So what I'm saying is, under the rubric of mass incarceration that we're talking about, just take that piece out. Private prisons. Look at it. Study it. Examine it. And if it doesn't make you sick, then you're not in touch with your own humanity. So if you want to deconstruct mass incarceration, why not take that piece? Because that's where the whole industry is going. Suggest the policies that would end perpetual prison regime. Eliminating mandatory sentences for nonviolent offenders. Returning to the use of less expensive, more effective prison alternatives such as substance abuse programs. Well-supervised probation. Community service when dealing with nonviolent offenders. Ending racial profiling. ending disparate sentencing, waging war on poverty and illiteracy, temporary moratorium on prison construction, state laws that require voter approval of bonds used to finance prison and jail construction. You need to decide what you're going to do to deconstruct it.
How many of us are willing to say, over your dead body, you can take our children?
What is hip-hop born as? What does it say about the vision of this larger hip-hop society? How can hip-hop be used as a way to solve problems like incarceration instead of being used to hurt and hamper our development?
Yo, what's poppin'? It's KC of Trilky Sounds and you're mixed with my boy, my homie DJ Nabs. My figures Trilky.com, motherfuckers.
So, phone, see.
Myfigures.com, homie, better recognize.
Lyrically, I'm untouchable, uncrushable, uncrushable.
Bitches and penny, sipping my glass full of Henny. Hands on my semi, automatic kill for pennies. Approach for contact, cause I'm live, I multiply. Soon as I open fire, niggas die with open eyes. Scared to take a nap, it's a trap. A long maze, dreaming of getting stacks, making scratch the wrong way. What the song say? We murder motherfuckers daily. Blackout, blow the track out. My lyrics never fail me. I inhale strong weed and release the stress. Deliver the bomb shit from the east to west. Like, yeah, niggas pull out when I face up. From Mr. Poppin' motherfuckers copy and fail. Efficiently, I delete and flee. The art of war, live a sucker free. Get with me. Like I blow the track out. Efficiently, I delete and flee. The art of war, live a sucker free. Get with me. Nigga just uncrushable. 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 Big Papa, throwing niggas off of cliffs, smoking splits, disappear with my bitch in a Mitsubishi Eclipse. Read my lips, I kill you, blood is spilled too. Did I say thank you? I grant you 3 wishes, cause I be the genie. Niggas is ass out like fat bitches in bikinis. Read between the lines, see what I see. I see the diary of a sick bastard. Junior Mafia blaster, Rugers on the hips, brought coke to flip chips, for bullets to fill clips. Check it, putting coke in corner store bodegas, in the back room playing Sega. Street Fighter 2, I'm inviting you. Get your writing crew and they dopest rhymes. I get up in that ass every time. Lyrically, I'm untouchable, uncrushable. Getting mad blooded in a 600 Benz. Ask your friends who's the illest. Licking shots, niggas screaming Biggie Smalls tried to kill us. It don't stop, it don't stop. Watch the hit, nigga, it don't stop, it don't stop. Watch the hit, nigga. Junior Mafia, representing Bucktown. Mac 11's cock back, niggas better duck down. Face down, you know the routine, the cream, earrings, you know the drama Biggie bring. Let's get it on, nigga. Let's get it on, nigga. Yeah.